Today we're working on PENG LU JI AN exercise. This was taught by Master Guo Ying in Portsmouth Square, San Francisco as part of his Pushing Hands curriculum. It's a relatively unknown exercise, two-man exercise that he taught to more advanced practitioners. In the beginning, it's a pre-rehearsed exercise, meaning that each participant participates in letting the moves happen. But after a while, after you learn the basics of the movements, then you can progress to using it in freestyle pushing hands. We already covered Pung from single whip and Lu from brush knee twist step. And the other two elements is G, pressing in, and on, deflect down. So Pung is expansion and push. Lu is receiving and roll back. On is pressing in, press and follow in. And on is step back and deflect. In the Guang Ping form, as I said before, Pung comes from single whip. Lu, receive, roll back, pull back, comes from brush knee twist step. And on, deflect down, as it comes in the set, comes from after the two kicks upward, and then the step back. It's important to note in the application of the move that instead of like normally when people, they tend to gain their balance and then step back, so they go here and they go like this. In the form, if you actually practice it as in the PENG LU JI AN exercise, you practice stepping back without the lean forward to regain your balance. So it goes from here and it just steps back. Part of the purpose of this PENG LU JI AN exercise is to help the practitioner feel comfortable being off balance. The exercise is very much like a domino effect. One domino falls, and then the other domino falls, and then the other domino falls, and so forth. And so in the pre-rehearsed form, each practitioner will do his part to kind of become off balance and then help precipitate the next movement so that you can learn how to actually be comfortable being off balance. As we were talking about in brush knee twist step, learning how to receive and letting the opponent push you so that you can learn how to receive energy and rotate with your body is part of that element of kind of learning how to actually be comfortable being pushed and being off balance. The tendency for a lot of practitioners is to want to stay balanced and very in control. But being out of control is also, being comfortable being out of control is very important in Tai Chi Chuan. One of the principles in another video, I'll talk about general principles of good Kung Fu, but one of the principles of Kung Fu is to learn how to move with using off balance. So if I want to move that way, instead of moving like this, if I just step, you can see that I fall off balance and I'm already moving in that direction. And that's one of the principles that we use in the good Kung Fu basics. So again, an on after the double jump kick. This one is called step back, hands beside body, in the names from the parry and punch. Instead of leaning forward and stepping back, in your Da Lu, you might want to just practice stepping back as part of this Peng Lu Ji An exercise. The second one that we haven't covered, the G, comes right in that same area of the form. And after step back, you do the kick, the turn around, the second parry and punch, and then back and press. And right here, we turn to chop opponent with this, chop opponent with this, step down, and then press. So that's the G in the form. So let's go into the Peng Lu Ji An exercise. Since I don't have an opponent, I'm going to have to play both sides. The person that initiates is the only offensive move, and then after that, each of the movements is kind of quote unquote defensive, meaning it's precipitated by the previous movement. So the only movement that comes offensively or unintentionally is the Peng. So in this side, I'm A, opponent A. I would initiate the exercise by pushing in and press. The opponent over here, B, will receive the press and practice brush knee step and pulling in. He's going to pull me off balance this way. After I press in and the opponent pulls me, I'm going to be falling forward because I've kind of over initiated, and then he pulls. And so this is where it's pre-rehearsed, because in really good Peng, you'd be so rooted that he would have to pull you hard in order for you to be falling forward. But in order to precipitate the actual practice of this pre-rehearsed two-man form, I will kind of lose my balance, let him pull me so that I can feel what it feels like to be off balance and pull. And as soon as he pulls me, I step into G, which is the press in. So again, I press in with Peng. The opponent over here pulls me with Lu, and he's pulling back. I get pushed forward, and I practice G. This opponent over here, as soon as my forearm gets onto the chest, he comes up and deflects downward. So again, that's why in the form, there's no room to go forward and step back. You're going to be being pressed back, and you have to learn how to just take that step without leaning forward and go to on. And on, after I do the press and he does the on, I'll be like kind of falling forward. So one opponent will practice the Peng and the G, and the other opponent practice the defensive movements of Lu and on. If you're by yourself and you want to practice this by yourself, again, you could practice just like that. You could do your single hand pushing the rotation and do the Peng and then do the press. In the beginning, it's okay to stay in balance, so you kind of get the idea of it. Press. Peng and G. After you get the hang of it, then a good way to practice it is kind of allow yourself to be off balance and then learn how to do the G as you're kind of like falling in, because that's what it should feel like in the two-man exercise. You kind of like just lose your balance and then try to regain your balance by pressing in with the G. On this side, like brush knee twist step, you're pressing in, pulling the opponent's arm, and then stepping back. Pull, beat as G, and just go right into on. Sorry. Doing brushing twist step, he presses in, and then do on. That. Again, from here, kind of just don't lean forward, you're getting press, and step back. So it's a fairly simple exercise. Hopefully you could find a partner to work with and really develop it. In the actual free application, each movement is not necessarily done in that sequence. You can learn how to apply each movement separately. In freestyle pushing hands, in Peng, for example, if I want to use the G, I can actually present a little resistance so that he has to really pull. And again, like I was talking about the opening door theory, doors like open and then the opponent was pushing, and then all of a sudden you open it up for the Lu, remember? You could do the same thing with the Peng. Peng, you resist, and when he's Lu, he's pulling hard, and then you step in, and you can kind of gain more using his off balance against him. So each of these can be done individually as well. So I hope you enjoy this presentation of the PENG LU JI AN exercise. Kind of experiment with it and enjoy. Thank you.